Hi everybody, welcome to another edition of GFIS National Solutions Chit Chat. Today I've got a very special guest, Fiona Crackles. Fiona, how are you doing?
Yes, good, thank you, Graham. How are you?
Yeah, good. So you are now currently down at Bisham, aren't you?
Yes, Bisham Abbey. Currently in the little room at the moment.
Yeah, so do you want to just flash? I just noticed before you're just flashing a little badge on there. What's that badge for?
So I've just recently joined the Great Britain senior women's hockey team. So a late addition. I just joined in January, and it's been quite a big change from kind of university life up in Durham. So it's pretty full on and intense, but I'm really loving the kind of training everyday aspect and just kind of getting better, really.
Fab, but we'll certainly pick up some stuff about Durham, but let's start with this little journey first. So we had a conversation probably in a similar room just before Team GB went to Belgium for a trip. Talk me through that whole process, because that was your first invite down there, wasn't it?
Yeah, so it was kind of a late call up, really. Only 3 weeks, I think, before the seniors went away, and essentially they had quite a few injuries and needed some numbers for the squad, and kind of got the making up numbers call up. And it kind of is weird looking back now, because I was definitely in a completely different headspace. I probably didn't think I should be going, and there's probably a lot of kind of apprehension and probably negative self-talk, even though I should be feeling so grateful and wow, they picked me. But it was completely opposite. I was absolutely bricking it, to be honest. And I remember we had a few conversations just about kind of getting the individual stuff right, and kind of knowing what I can bring into the team in each day. And I think recognizing that was like a big thing for me, getting those first 4 caps. And it was a bit of a whirlwind really of a trip, but it was a class opportunity to get, my first cap was against Holland, which is just ridiculous. They're world number 1. And it was, I mean, nothing prepares you for like your first international game. Like you think, oh, it's going to be fast, it's going to be physical, but no one is prepared. No one has prepared you quite like just getting stuck in. And I think that's kind of the mindset I had, really, just to get on the ball and get stuck in.
No, and it was a fab journey to watch, and obviously having the pleasure of having that conversation with you. That first week when you were down there and going through almost what was, I guess, it was a trial, wasn't it, really, in terms of finding out where you were, to then working out whether the trip to Belgium would be really good for you, because of, would you just go and sit on the bench, or would you go and play, and how much would you play? And we talked about that being a really good learning opportunity in terms of growth for you as a player and also as a person. And then you just decided that in the final game of the week just to be player of the match. So how did you just want to just pull that one out for fun?
Thought why not give it a go. That was kind of bizarre, I guess. It looks kind of like, oh, that was just, that was a process, get 3 games under the belt and then the 4th one. But to me, I didn't feel like, I didn't feel like I had done anything exceptional. Or actually, it was really funny. The Belgium officials kind of come up to me, and they're like, oh, we've awarded you player of the match. And genuinely, I looked around my shoulder because I thought they were talking to someone else. I had the kind of the concept of being in a senior environment and then getting recognized to have been the player of the match, because it's like for both teams they just pick one player out of like both squads. So it was such a shock, and to feel that it wouldn't have been anything particularly different skill wise, but it probably was more just I had more of a presence. I think my confidence had grown probably more than I had realized, and I was feeling and looking more confident. And I think just from that, I then maybe had made decisions that I would more instinctively make. It wasn't like, oh, I scored a goal, I definitely didn't do that, I didn't save a goal on the line. It was more kind of a holistic, probably just increase in performance. But that was definitely just from feeling at ease, and that's probably like a massive thing for me, is when I do feel comfortable, that's when I'll play my best hockey, which is pretty cool, a little trophy.
Yeah, I'm glad you talk about feeling there and how you look as well, because that's something which I think is such an important attribute to any sports person. You have to feel it, but we don't spend enough
Yeah.
time on understanding how we feel, and we certainly don't spend enough video footage in terms of looking at what are we sort of portraying to everybody as well. And I just said to you before we actually press record on this one, didn't I? I said you look a little bit lighter today. You look more refreshed than the conversation that we had in almost the same bedroom. Yeah, maybe it's just makeup.
Yeah.
You say, yeah, Graham, it's just Maybelline. It's just the makeup that we've done. But yeah, it's one of those things that if we can work on that off the pitch or off the court, whatever sport we're in, if we can work on how do we look and also work on how do we feel, I think there's this correlation between psychology and physiology that allows us to relax. And when we relax, then we can just play. And there's no doubt, and obviously my limited knowledge of hockey with Durham University over the last 8 years now, and known you for almost 2 years, is that you can always play hockey. You've always been able to play at a high level. That's never been in question. So what do you think the big transition was in that week between getting to Belgium? Then what was the transition during the week at Belgium that allowed you to do that?
For me, it was definitely the conversations and the dialogue that I had with the girls with me. I think coming in, I was nervous, feeling a bit of an outsider, and obviously I didn't have connections to these people. These people were actually been my role models since I was like under 12 or something. Like the whole thing was bizarre. Like I was playing with these people that I just, in my head, I shouldn't be playing with yet. It all seemed so fast forward. So that week was just little conversations and check-ins and actually people in my own playing line, so kind of defensive midfield type role, being like, oh, when you did that, or when I gave you that chat and then that happened, those positive like reinforcements, which because coming in I didn't know what was expected of me and stuff like that, but that just like filled me with confidence. Even though each game I felt so nervous beforehand, there must have been, it was more an intrinsic belief and kind of backing of myself that I got from the people around me that didn't stop my nerves before the game. But on the pitch, whistle goes, I was more then in kind of play mode, as you mentioned earlier, not like being present and kind of just like doing the game. I was actually like valuing kind of the flow and stuff in those last couple of games, instead of just being like, oh my God, I'm on the pitch thinking, when am I going to get subbed, like get back on the bench kind of thing. It was a complete flip as the games went along. And with these upcoming Ireland games, I hope that I'll still have nerves, and it's like the pressure of kind of selection coming up, but it's again that and stuff. If you're not playing well, like if it's not going well, the confidence to know what I can still bring on day that you might not be performing. Like you're not always going to train well or play well, but it's kind of that mindset of what can I still bring to influence the team. Like I'm quite fast. I can always run, and it's those kind of little like tweaks and stuff that even if you're not having the best day, it's that kind of the mindset of how you can still influence stuff going around.
Brilliant. Right. You've just brought up a whole load of information there I need to try to keep in my head. And, I'm getting a little bit older. The first one, I guess, at Durham, we, using that phrase, enjoy the ball. That sounds what you were doing. Just, when you were on the ball, you were just enjoying the moment and just doing the stuff that you can do. And you talked about feedback and, people are giving you information, having those little chats, those corridor conversations, I call them, where it's not a formal conversation, just a little chat that somebody tells you something, which has been really important. How important was it having somebody like Tess around, Tess being a former Durham girl as well?
Oh, absolutely huge. I think having that little bit of almost home, when it's not home, it's like your university hockey club. It sounds bizarre to even say that, but DUHC is my other family, and I had a part of my family with me in a time that I could be feeling so out of place, and I was so out of place. I was there was only a couple of us called up, kind of younger ones, and we it was a bizarre experience with all the social distancing as well. But to know that if I needed to, just go on a walk and and have conversations with someone that already knows potentially kind of what's going on, or she's also been in that situation being like a newbie and stuff. But it was incredible to have that one person to not rely on, but just make you feel at ease. Just kind of, even just when we're having tea or whatever in the evenings, and just she'd walk around the corner, I'd be like, oh yeah, that's Tess, that's good. And it is just little things like that, and just someone that also that really believed in me as well, probably believed in me more than I believed in myself on that trip. We've played together for under 16 England, we played together, and through the age groups and stuff, she's always been a couple of years ahead kind of thing. But yeah, having that that little boost of confidence, and knowing kind of you have to be, having Durham Hockey Club kind of, and like wearing our plat fleeces around and stuff. It was just like that, like warmth, really. Yeah, family.
Yeah, excellent. You mentioned about Northern Ireland coming up in terms of a little tour, and a little pressure on selection. We'll talk a little bit about that later on. But at this current moment in time, what is your general day looking like? So on a day-to-day basis, what are you guys currently doing? I know you said that you're in isolation now as well, aren't you, before the trip, which that's a lot of fun, but I'm sure a lot of people will relate to that. But what is your normal day looking like at this moment in time?
So yeah, it's still crazy to think like how lucky we are as pretty much training and day-to-day life as normal. So we have we train, we have Wednesdays off and Sundays off, but apart from that it's pretty full time. So either a pitch session and 2-hour pitch session and a 1-hour gym, 1.5 hour gym type thing each day, or sometimes it's a double pitch session, but one being more intense and one being less. And yeah, different kind of mobility stuffs in gym, or power and explosive, or lifting heavy. Like it all kind of tweaks throughout the week. But that shift from school to uni, that felt like a massive jump with the gym experience, the S&C, likes of yourself with the psych and stuff that I never thought about when I was at school. And then it's like another jump up from that with just a kind of pure volume. I guess at uni there's a lot going on, but you're still kind of in that student athlete kind of balance. And obviously I'm still got my studies going on, but now I'm much more, it feels like, well, probably should focus on the athlete bit a bit more at the moment. I'm still doing my course, but I've actually split my second year, so a bit lighter on that kind of side of stuff. But yeah, it's full on, but it's very, very enjoyable at the same time.
Yeah, I'm sure Tess will still be pleased. The fact that you're doing a little bit of studying at the same time as you're still, playing a little bit of hockey. That's a really important point there, Fiona, in terms of that whole conversation about, at some stage when you're a junior, you just play a sport because you're just playing. And then all of a sudden you start winning a little bit, and you start getting some player of the, the match awards, and you get some recognition either locally, regionally, internationally. And then all of a sudden now you make the transition to something like Team GB. And this is not an ordinary year, by the way, because of COVID, also because of the delayed Olympics as well. But at some stage, I guess there's a transition between, this is no longer just fun. It almost becomes a bit of a job, doesn't it? In terms of, like you said, the S&C stuff, the psych stuff, the nutrition stuff, the tactics, the game footage in terms of watching game footage, all of that becomes a little bit more of a job. How did you prepare yourself mentally for that? The increase, I guess, in intensity, but also just the increase in time, because it does take up more time, doesn't it?
Yeah, for sure. And that's kind of like a good point to raise. And I think there's no coming in, I was probably maybe not naive, but didn't really quite comprehend that the hockey would firstly take up a lot of time, and secondly, it like physically drains you, but also mentally drains you. And I hadn't split my year originally. Thought I'll just try and do my course at the same time and try and be a professional athlete at the same time. And so that didn't go down that well. Like, felt that I was spreading myself so thinly, I wasn't doing either of them very well. I would arrive to training already thinking about, I need to leave on time to get back to my studies. But now I'm in a position that there's so much information, you could feel overloaded. But now I feel like I turn up to training and I know there's going to be 20 points that are going to say come up in that 2-hour session. And for me, it's that I've spoken to coaches about it, and they don't want to overload we try not to overload people coming in into the squad, because obviously you do feel a bit bombarded with information. But I want to leave that session having 3 points, or kind of 3 clear points that I've either not done very well, I need to work on, or a point that was raised and I actually smashed it that session. And it's taking away the key things, not coming off back of the session thinking, oh, so I took this 3 session, but there was still 17 things I hadn't done. It's each day chunking it down and not quite ticking things off, because team sport doesn't work like that at all. It's like, obviously there's always stuff you can work on and stuff like that, but it's the kind of balancing of the overload and kind of soaking it up like a sponge as well. So that's for me been a big thing, because I know if I feel like there's too much information, then I'll be like a rabbit in headlights. I won't play off my gut instinctively, or just play like we talked about earlier, when you can just, I love it when I can just play. And that doesn't mean ignoring what the coaches are saying. It's that getting that balance kind of along that continuum. But now that I've split my year, I come back from training, have a shower, eat, whatever it is. Then I look forward to my studies, or watching that Netflix series or that book I've got going on. And then you finish a bit of that, and then I'm looking forward to gym. And it's obviously everyone's different, but it's getting everything in your life just balanced. And I know I definitely hadn't got that right at the start, but I'm much more kind of comfortable and feel like I've got my routine now. And it's happened quite quick. It only took a couple of weeks, but you have to have that scary kind of period at the start that nothing feels in your control. But now I feel much more in control, which is good.
Good. I'm going to talk about that in 2 seconds, but whilst it's on the tip of my tongue, I need to ask you, what Netflix doc are you watching at the moment?
Oh, okay. So, I've just finished Suits, which was a big time-consuming chunk of my life. So watching that, but now I'm on Amazon Prime watching This Is Us.
Okay.
I don't know if you've heard of it. I've quite a few recommendations, but you do, even though there's obviously a lot of time at training and studying, I do enjoy a good series. Like you've got to get the balance, don't you? You've got to get the balance.
You know, it is, you do have to get the balance right. And I accept with everybody who I work with as well, is that there's going to be this time period where you just need to kind of, you know, have your own time to do some stuff. It's trying to get that balance right in the full week, you know. And when people start going, I don't have time, then you start to go, well, actually 10 hours of Netflix is maybe too much in a week. Because, you know, if you kind of go, well, actually I can do everything, then that's fine. Then you still can fit in 10 hours of Netflix. Why not? Who am I to tell you that you can't do that? And what book are you reading at the moment?
A book I got for my birthday, actually. So everyone's always surprised I've not read it, but To Kill a Mockingbird. I think was my mum's favorite book, and a lot of people like studied it at English at school, but I didn't. But so I'm a few chapters into that and really enjoying it, actually. I'm not a natural person that would pick up a book and read, but something, actually my New Year's resolution is to read more books and stuff. So it's just, I originally said I was going to read every day, but I was a bit unrealistic. So it's now just like picking up as much as I can, really. It's good.
Yeah, there's a really good book called The Slight Edge, that I might have talked to you about over the last couple of years. But one of the things in that book, it says that you should read 10 pages a day. And if you just read 10 pages every day, all of a sudden that adds up to a lot of pages. Because usually you never read 10 pages because you get to page 10 and it's halfway through a chapter, so you'll finish the chapter off. But it gets you in the habit, and you were talking about habits before. It's interesting what you're talking about in terms of learning, because you're right. It's so easy for us to walk away going, I learned 3 new things today, but actually I didn't learn 17. So there's a deficit there. You know, there's a lot of negativity around that. Oh, I didn't learn 17. That's when the self-talk can come in. So actually saying that, learning 3 in chunking is a really good way. And we always talk in pre-season about that acceleration of learning. And we also talk about learning stage and growth stage as well. If you overload yourself, as you were talking there, and you're thinking about trying to learn all of those 20 things, then you're probably going to be in fear, aren't you? And if you're in fear, then you're probably not going to be able to play with the freedom that we talked about, that enjoy the ball moment.
Yeah. I think it's really easy, kind of freshers coming into a new team, or just moving clubs or moving schools, anything like that. It's really easy to come into an environment, in a sport environment, and automatically feel you're in that negative, that deficit, as you say. And for me, I probably, like a lot of other people, it's straight away you're comparing yourself to other people. And those first few weeks, I was like, oh my goodness, these people this could be their second 4-year Olympic cycle, and I'm literally playing with people that have Olympic medals and stuff, and it's that, oh my God, they've got all these years, and I can't do that, and they can do that, I can't do this, and I can't do. And those first few weeks, that was my head telling me all those things. And I had a conversation with one of the coaches, and I was like, I've got like a massive list, and I want you to tell me which point I should work on first. And she was like, hold on a second. She was like, we've told you we're trying not to overload you. And the fact that we've not had these conversations is because we want you to play. And I was like, all right, okay, yeah, okay, I'll rip that page out of my notebook. It's so easy to have that comparison mindset, but it's your journey, and everyone is completely different in completely different stages. If you can take on those 3 things and think, oh my God, I've taken on those 3 things, instead of, oh my God, I've not had those 17 things, then your head's already in a better place to consolidate those 3 things more, because you're focusing on them rather than you've taken them on, but you're focusing on the 17 you've not done. So it's literally just like that mindset of you're against yourself, and you're improving every day. So that was a big thing for me.
You are, and I agree with that. And we've done a couple of things on pre-season about understanding your reference point. And that's exactly what that is you can't compare yourself to somebody who's been to maybe 2 Olympic Games already, because they've got the experience, they've done that. You can't buy that, you can't learn that until you've maybe gone through it. So your reference point is playing to your ability levels now. And then you start to add things through learning and growth. You start to add things through some of the new tactics, presses. You start to add things through the experience of traveling with the team, getting to know everybody as well. So as long as you can work around that, the reason why you got selected for trials is based on your ability now. And the reason why you then went on tour was because of your ability now. So all you have to do is to play to your ability, to your reference point, and then start learning and growing and getting a little bit better. And it won't be long between, until you're, sort of through your second Olympic cycle, and somebody else is coming in and saying the same thing to you. I'd love to play like Fiona Crackles. Yeah. And I guess part of your job is to say, well, that would be nice, but you don't have to play to my level now. You have to play to your level. And hopefully the coaches are telling you that as well. So we're off to Northern Ireland. How many games do you have?
3 games. So we're waiting for COVID results at the moment. It was an early start this morning, and then traveling tomorrow. And then, so we're playing Saturday, Sunday, Tuesday, I believe. So back to back, and then day off, and just a couple of training sessions throughout as well. But yeah, as I said, with selection coming up there, it's much more of a performance-based kind of trip, rather than like a training block, kind of playing under fatigue. We've kind of done that in these last couple of weeks, and now it's, play well.
Yeah, and playing under fatigue is about energy, and it's about the efficiency of energy as well. And you'll know that when you're under fatigue situations, the likelihood is your decision making goes down, and therefore actually your performance levels goes down as well. And that's why we need you when you're thinking about things, and especially the learning side of things, where we're being more energy efficient. Because if you're nervous, and you have a lot of anxiety, or you're worried about, do I deserve to be here, then that's just draining your battery a little bit, which means that, you don't play as well as you can for as long as you can as well. So that's a really interesting one to have a look at. I guess the other big question is that it's a different year, isn't it? Or is there anything specific happening this year?
What, do I say the O word or not?
Yeah, and I worked on Monday with the British Paralympic team as well. So we did a lot of stuff on Monday with them, and it's really interesting in terms of the feel at this moment in time with some athletes. How many's in your squad?
About 26, 28. So that's like 3 keepers, and then probably 26 outfield. That's probably about right, maybe 24.
And how many will get selected to go?
16 will go.
Okay. Yeah. So how's How's the feeling in the camp? Because I'm just going to say, I did some stuff with Jacco Van Gas, who's a Paralympic cyclist, and he was saying when it gets a little bit closer to selection, people get a little bit nervy, people get a little bit tetchy, and then all of a sudden the conversations aren't as nice. How's the camp going at the moment?
I'd say we're pretty happy campers. I think we can get, obviously, we have like values and stuff, and one of our values is we are one. And when it comes to selection or pre-selection, that's probably the biggest kind of talk at the moment is, okay, we're identifying that we're getting looked at for performance-based stuff at the moment, and selection's up and coming, but there's a lot of talk that the 16 that go are because of our whole squad, and it's like thanks to the competitive environment we created that made selection so tough to make those 16. So that's obviously kind of the ideal scenario, that feeling of actually if I'm sitting at home watching the Olympics, I'm actually a part of that because I made my counterpart, the position I'm fighting for, I made that person be as good as they are because our selection was actually really close. So that's a lot of kind of chatter we've got at the moment with our values and talk. And that's kind of like the ideal situation. But obviously, when it gets to trainings or inter-squad games that we've had this last couple of weeks, and there is this kind of this fuel and this heat that's there. Probably that wouldn't be as much if it was, a couple of months previously. Our selection's end of April. So yes, not long kind of now, and obviously 1%ers and stuff like that, and if you can maybe wind up your counterpart, people do rise to that. Not passing comment if that's kind of how I approach it, but it's getting, I wouldn't quite say tetchy, because I think we do really appreciate the value of every one of the individuals, and there's actually no way of knowing the most senior cap player that we've got could have an injury next week and they're actually not going to be there, no chance of being selected for the Olympics. So there's always that kind of, we don't know what's going to happen. And also this appreciation that we're here to make the best 16. And if that is you or isn't you, we are that one. And obviously being like a younger member, it'd be incredible and gives me goosebumps thinking about it. But if it's not my time, then there's obviously such a long kind of time period for maybe the next one and stuff like that. So
yeah, that's a good attitude. I've just noticed the little rowing picture behind your back as well, and I'm currently working with a rower who is probably 2 or 3 seats away from going to the Olympics this year. So the cycle that we looked at was probably more 2024, definitely 2028, but all of a sudden with this year with COVID, you're looking at 2 to 3 seats, 2 to 3 positive COVID tests, and then he's in. Yeah, exactly. And it's trying to prepare to be ready to take the opportunity. If you're in, you're in. And this is such a strange year that everybody who has an opportunity needs to be ready to take the opportunity. And you're right, in a team game, it's the whole squad, and it might be your turn now, and you have to be ready for that. But if it's not, then actually we've only got 3 years, so 2024, and then we're back again. So there's huge opportunities for you to I guess have an impact now, but have an impact on Team GB over the next decade. You're still slightly young, Fiona, so I'm sure we've still got at least 2 games after this one that you could potentially help out with a little bit as well. So in terms of the Olympic year, fab, but let's get past that, and we'll just give you guys a gold medal, because why would we not?
We'll take it, yeah.
And then afterwards, then are you back to Durham next year?
It's all a bit to be confirmed, actually. So obviously I'll have the second part of my second year. Hopefully a bit of downtime if it's Olympics or not Olympics, just at the end of this kind of season. I mean, COVID permitting, maybe a bit of travel and stuff like that. But I'll be doing my studies, but it's difficult because it's kind of not too much foot off the gas, really, because we've then got Euros, World Cup, and all these events that were to happen in 4 years now happening in 3 years. So the next cycle is kind of up and running again just kind of January of next year. So I guess there's probably quite a lot of senior members retiring at the end of this year, which is kind of huge for the sport. Kind of, if I'm still kind of around, I won't be a newbie, and I'll be having to step up in the kind of developing our next squad, really, which kind of seems crazy to think about. Quite like being the one that doesn't have to know everything that's going on, but I don't think I'll have that privilege next year. But it'll be really amazing. I've had a few conversations with Tess. Obviously, she's kind of a little bit ahead of me with experience in caps. We're inspiring the future. We're the next future, and it's I'm still kind of not got my head around that. But I guess that's kind of the role we'll be filling, and it'll be pretty crazy to then not be seen as that newbie and having a bit more of a role model kind of aspect in the team. So that'll be a very different shift for me, I guess.
So seeing that we're talking about Durham, I guess we should kind of, finish off a little bit more about why is Durham so successful over the last couple of years? Yourself, Tess, Ollie, Jack, Rhys, producing a lot of hockey players who are representing Team GB, at the highest level of the sport. What is it that Durham's doing well?
It's a really good question. I don't know if you can pinpoint it exactly, but I think, unlike other universities, not to slate them all or anything, but the culture that you kind of you come into as a first year is, as I said earlier, it's the family. Like, it's the DHC family. It's just a huge one. I think that brings the elements of kind of the hard work and the hard-nosed attitude that you will do anything for the teammates around you. Like, bringing back to last year and our book success and beating Loughborough in the semis, and unfortunately not going to the final because of COVID, but being essentially in that final position, we knew we could trust each other. We knew we were the fittest individuals because we had worked harder than other universities. It was just like a kind of an unwritten thing, but something that we look at each other, and we did our last fitness test of the year. We all hit the target, which in pre-season, coming in, I thought it was impossible. I was never going to get that target. And it's things like that kind of are instilled as you join the club, the expectations of the hard work. And I mean, Gareth always bangs on about how we're the smartest hockey players in the country, and we all laugh and we're like, oh, guys, classic, But I think he's right. We don't just go through the processes when we're on the pitch or at training. We're there to learn and understand that if start of the game we're told to be in so-and-so press, and instead of probably potentially like other teams at our age, the university teams, of just being in that press, it's not working, we're getting kind of smashed through every outlet. We make those decisions on the pitch that we have the license, because we have that understanding and that the gamesmanship and stuff, more so than just needs to be prescribed and we get told and we do. We don't have you look on paper and you look at the Nottinghams and the Birminghams, and they have better individuals. Like, there's no kind of way around that. But clearly the work hard culture and are probably just actually the thirst of like knowledge and understanding of the game. Clearly we actually holistically develop better. Like, we actually do just kind of work better as a team, and probably just helps that success when it came to last year and stuff. And it's nothing against other universities' programs at all, but I think we're just more independent, probably, hockey players than others.
Interesting. I like that. So this year we've got a load of freshmen who've come in who probably haven't played hardly at all.
Yeah.
Next year we're going to have another load of freshmen who've come in. We're almost going to have two years of freshmen, as every other university is going to have as well. We've got same coach staff. Gaz is still there, Luke's still there, I'm still there. So we've still got the same support network around the guys. For those people who are coming in next year and those who haven't played this year, any top tips? And I'm also going to say that, you've had a year of not being team captain, but being team captain, because you just haven't had the opportunity to do that role, have you?
Yeah, I mean, it's bizarre, and it's been such a funny one, and it almost, it just feels like such a kind of non-existent year, even though I think they played maybe like 5 games or something, which is just it's crazy, and it was like almost every other week. It wasn't even consistently. I think the first years that have come in, I mean, like, bless them, it's been completely different to probably what they were expecting, what we were hoping we could, just for them to understand our culture and what it's like to be part of a DUHC family, and the kind of events that we have, like big club events, and even down to just the little pasta bondings that we do before a game on a Tuesday night, stuff like that. It's such a shame that they've not kind of had that, but I guess they've still hopefully taken bits from us at training and just being around kind of us on the pitch environment, whether it is at 2 meters and stuff like that. And for the next kind of freshers coming in, I think they'll again probably be nervous like everyone else is, but I guess it's just extra important that the returners and stuff, and then people that are still there do kind of pride and embrace our culture like as much as possible, so that we don't kind of so they don't kind of miss out on that experience, really. And just fingers crossed for a more normal season next season and stuff. And I think it will be extra important to have the likes of yourself and Luke and Gaz, Claire, everyone just kind of knowing our values and culture before we started the season, so we're kind of on point to kind of potentially reaching out to the second years and the first years coming in. So it's going to be a very different one, really.
I'm glad you talked about those 2 key words there, culture and values, because we spend a lot of time on that, by the way. Culture, I think, is something that over the last 7-8 years we've massively worked on a lot, especially with the girls, to get to where you guys are now from where we were 7-8 years ago, especially with Gaz joining the program as well. But also the values, and every year we slightly tweak the values, because for me, values can't be something which are set in stone. They can't just be nice words. We talk about the fact that if you guys are the smartest hockey players at university in the country, then you're likely to give me some beautiful words which, articulate what values we want, but it's not necessarily honest, and it's not necessarily true for the group. So every year we tweak them a little bit, because, new captains, new players in, and it's got to fit the cohort as well. So I'm glad you mentioned those 2 words. We literally have 2 cohorts who don't necessarily know the culture in any detail coming in next year. They don't necessarily will know the values, but they have a brilliant opportunity to shape something, and they have a brilliant opportunity to carry on from, you could have looked at last year, especially from a Fiona Crackles mindset. You could have looked at it in 2 ways. You could have said, well, I didn't get to win Bucks final, and we were pretty close, and we had such a strong team, and we were doing really well. I didn't get to captain Durham's team as much as I wanted to because of COVID, and because of, obviously, potential selection for the Olympics. I could have missed out on not going to Belgium, or sitting on the bench and not playing and being miserable and speaking to Graham in a hotel room again every day of the week. But we didn't do that. And there's a lot of people, I think, currently are suffering with COVID because of the environment, the issues, the circumstances. But I also know a lot of people who have just said, you know what it is? I can still get through this and almost thrive through this instead of just surviving. And I think you've been one of those people, because you've had a phenomenal year in such strange situations. And I think that has to be not down to your hockey, because we know you're a good hockey player, you always were, but it's certainly a mindset that you've really been working on over the last 2 years that I've known you, in order to get to this standpoint as well. What do you think of that?
I mean, you're making me blush, Graham. Gosh. I mean, I really haven't thought of it in that way at all. I think, I guess I've had some really incredible kind of opportunities, and probably that is a combination of mindset and hockey, as you say. And I think I think like everyone, we've all struggled, especially well, if it's lockdown 1, 2, 3, whatever number on now, I mean, that first one I found particularly hard, but I guess you have, at some point you've got to go, right, this is how it is. And I love the kind of saying, control the controllables. That you can have a few days of sulking or whatever, or snapping at your mum or whatever it is, and then it gets to that point that you're like, actually, we're all in this situation, and there's got to be a silver lining somewhere. There's got to be. I started listening to podcasts. I never did that. I started reading, and then from there, listen to a few things about, each day there's always something you can do to better yourself, and that doesn't necessarily have to be you reinventing the wheel or doing something incredible. It could just be that one day you took 10 minutes to sit in the sun and read your book. And I think my mindset definitely did shift. And yeah, I think I grew up in that sense a lot, with actually you can always improve yourself, and that a lot of that was physical for me. Did a lot of S&C and running stuff in the heat of that first lockdown and stuff, and ways to kind of learn how to keep busy in your least busy time. Like there's no one to meet, there's nothing to do, and it's like I was really lucky. I live on a farm, and there's always kind of outdoors stuff to do, and that was a massive shift to appreciate that stuff, not resent it at home out on the farm or whatever. And there was a vast amount of things I kind of learned, and I guess there's not that one thing that I did particularly differently, but it's probably just more a shift of appreciation. And I know it sounds all a bit cringe, and that probably has kind of changed me a little bit to kind of where I am now, and the appreciation that we're going to Northern Ireland and we're training each day, and that's helped my mindset coming into this program of, there's no point being nervous. I have nothing to lose. I've got this couple month period to try and prove myself and get selected, and then even if I don't, then I'm still in a really incredible and brilliant place. So yeah, there's been a lot of conversations with the people around me, like that I needed to have to give me confidence to say yes to things like this, and my family as well. But it's just that kind of openness to always kind of better yourself and stuff like that. Probably is the biggest thing in lockdown.
It's such a simple phrase, isn't it? I can go out for a run today, and I can go and sit in the sun and read my book for half an hour, or I can go and listen to a podcast. It's such a small phrase, I can, but we get so stuck in it, I can't. If you can just do that, if everybody can just do that simple change more times during the day, then actually it will certainly improve your mindset a little bit as well. Right. I'm conscious of the fact that you're going to get a knock on the door, and you get that pre-Olympian food coming to your door. What is food choice, by the way, at lunchtime? What do you normally get?
I'm not actually sure. I don't know what's on the menu today. Just
got to be
whatever.
Something super Olympian healthy, does it?
Probably chicken and pasta or something. Your standard. But yeah, it's coming. We can't have contact with anyone until we've got our COVID results back. So it's lunch in the room today on our own, which is going to be a bit bizarre. But got to do what you got to do.
Fab. What is the deadline date for selection?
Selection, did you say?
Yeah.
End of April, I believe.
Okay. So all you can do is the things you can do, play to your reference, learn and grow every day, and give yourself the best chance to hopefully get a seat on the plane to Tokyo.
Yeah, I mean, fingers crossed, really.
It'll be fab. Fiona, thank you very much for your time and effort. We will catch up soon, no doubt. But good luck in the next couple of weeks. Good luck in Northern Ireland, and I'm sure you do fab.
Bro, thank you very much, Graham.